Morena, my name is David Pont. I'm a remote sensing scientist at Scion, and I'm going to present on recent developments in forest phenotyping. So, phenotyping for forestry. What is it? It's about characterizing tree growth in relation to genetics, environment, and management. We do this to understand the drivers of tree growth, and we do that by measuring and then fitting models and using those models to manage forest growth. And phenotyping is carried out at scales ranging from the whole estate through individual trees and even down to within tree. So I'll cover some recent projects we've done on area-based phenotyping in association with Hancock Forest Management, on tree-based phenotyping with Radiata Pine Breeding Company, and finally some work on tree stem phenotyping carried out using a Hovermap scanner developed by Emerson, Australia. So in our area-based phenotyping project with Hancock's, the objective was to look at managing forest and estate productivity. The approach was to compile a wall-to-wall high-resolution grid of data at a 25-metre scale, and that data set is compiled by assembling information from three main sources. Firstly, phenotypic data itself, which quantifies productivity in the form of site index and 300 index in the study. Then we add information about genetics and management, and this information comes from the forest owner's stand record system. And finally, we add information about environment in the form of climate and soils layers. So when we put together all of these different data sources at such a high resolution, we create a very, very large data set. And a data set this big is just not feasible to tackle with conventional modeling methods. So we apply a methodology called machine learning. And we use machine learning to fit models to predict productivity right across the estate, taking into account the effects of genetics, environment, and management. And the images on the right there illustrate productivity in terms of site index at the top there, and then also illustrating one of the environmental layers that we input to the model. In both cases, we can see that there's complex variation in both the productivity and the underlying environmental layer in this case. Results from this project, we're able to fit models that would predict yield in terms of 300 index and site index right across the estate. The results here are for 300 index. The model had an R-squared of just over 0.9. The plot at the bottom indicates the predicted versus observed. And then the plot on the right shows us the top 20 ranked variables from the machine learning model. So the machine learning ranks the features, and we can see in the top 5, the features have been color-coded: yellow for genetics, green for environment, and blue for management. So in the top 5, we see that we have examples of all three. And currently, this helps us understand what are the key drivers of the model and for this estate. And at the moment, we're working on using that model to help select the best genetics for different sites at that estate. In our tree-based phenotyping work, it's carried out in a genetics trial, but also applicable to forest stands. The approach is to detect individual trees and then generate crown metrics for those trees. So in this study, we did that using LiDAR imagery and RGB imagery. These are illustrated at the top and bottom on the right. And then in more recent developments, we've been working on also incorporating the ability to quantify environmental effects and competition effects on tree growth. So competition is illustrated in the middle image there. So we quantify the competition of a tree by taking into account its immediate neighbours and their relative size and proximity. Results have shown we can detect individual trees with a 98% accuracy and estimate tree height with an R² of approaching 0.9. We also have found that UAV LiDAR is probably the preferable image source compared to RGB, but both can be used. And the methods we've developed are helping us improve results from the analysis of breeding trials. But in work in the last year, we also found that the ability to quantify environmental and competition effects is a very useful input to the development of next generation tree growth models. And you'll hear a lot more about this in the next presentation by Yu Lin. And we also worked with Forest Protection Group here at Scion and found that our competition metrics were able to provide useful input in understanding the dynamics of disease. So we had data in this trial on Dothrosoma needle blight and red needle cast, and found that competition metrics helped explain levels of disease as well as growth rates and survival. So in the third area, we looked at characterizing tree stems. The objective here is really to automate the measurement of stem size, stem form, and branching. So in prior work, we'd found that when we scan from above, say with a UAV, we tend to have insufficient information on the stem to accurately characterize it. Meanwhile, if we scan from below, we can generate quite detailed information on the stem. And so the approach here was to use the Hovermap, which is a laser scanner recently developed in Australia. And it's illustrated here mounted to UAVs, but it can also be handheld, backpack mounted, vehicle mounted, so quite a versatile tool. And in this case, we were looking at data collected by scanning below canopy, illustrated at the bottom right there. In our results, we proved that the device is a very effective tool for forest laser scanning. Processing the data that we collected, we achieved a stem detection rate of 97% and the ability to estimate DBH with an R² of 0.88, and very confident we can improve on that. And so currently we're continuing to work with this data, and us and our collaborators are working on automating these methods and linking them to virtual reality environments. Links are provided there for a video and web story that we compiled about our work with the Hovermap scanner. So conclusions, the area-based and machine learning approach is a very practical tool for forest managers to predict productivity across their estate, taking into account the effects of genetics, environment, and management. The tree-based approach to phenotyping is helping us get more accurate results from trials, and the recent developments around quantifying competition are proving critical to accurately describing tree growth. And then the work on below canopy scanning is showing that it's essential to take that perspective to accurately quantify stem size, stem form, and branching. And looking forward, we're working on developing a recommender from the area-based work to match seed lots to sites using the information from the estate that the machine learning methods have analysed. We're applying tree-level phenotyping to help develop better breeds faster. And then models of competition and tree growth are proving critical to unlocking the puzzle of genetics by environment, by management. And we're also interested to take further the initial results we had on understanding forest health dynamics. And so I'll just close by acknowledging that this research has been a collaborative effort involving a larger number of people from within Scion and industry. Thank you.